Hey guys, over the last couple of years, I've had loads of people ask me how they can support the show, and now you can. So if you like this show and you want to support it and you want to keep it free, head on over to everyonelovesguitar.com/support. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/support. Thanks for all you do. If you're a business owner and you want to increase your cash flow, or if you're a label or artist and you want to promote new music, then listen up. For information about advertising on Everyone Loves Guitar, including information on geographically targeted ads, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Hey guys, I got to tell you a quick story. I recently put in a pair of EMG pickups into my Les Paul Classic, and tinkering with electronics, wires, not my bag. That being said, a little over an hour later, I'd installed the pickups with literally no problems at all. And the quality of the sound is absolutely amazing. I put in the retroactive Fat 55s. That's a new set that they have, and that's because I wanted a vintage, British Brown sound. And these Fat 55s are modeled after the tone of the classic PAFs, which is exactly what I got. The thing I wasn't expecting is it sort of feels like my volume and tone knobs have been expanded to 20. There's like a lot more responsiveness in the volume and tone, and I could even get harmonics now at low volumes on the neck pickup, and any preconceived notions I had about installation being difficult or, there's a problem having a battery in there were totally wrong. The battery thing, it's like putting a battery in one of my kids' toys when they were little children growing up. It's just a total non-issue. And in fact, I'm going to wind up getting the Strat set next because installation for that is even easier because it comes with the pick guard and the pickup's already attached to the pick guard. And if you want to check out EMGs for yourself, now's actually a great time to do this because Rob and Allison are making a special offer available for listeners of this show only. And here it is. For a limited time, head on over to emgpickups.com, buy one or more sets of pickups, and enter ELG in the discount code section of the shopping cart. ELG, of course, for Everyone Loves Guitar. And they're going to give you 15% off, which is huge. The biggest discounts they ever give is 10%. Plus, they're going to give away $70 worth of free bonuses, including an EMG cinch bag, a pick tin, lanyard, stickers, and a t-shirt. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee if you're not 100% satisfied. Plus, not a 2-year performance guarantee on the performance of the actual pickups themselves, but a lifetime performance guarantee. And on top of everything else, you're going to get free shipping. So there's basically no risk at all here for you to try a set or two of EMG pickups. And the great thing about these pickups is, and I got 2 sets, once you install them, and by the way, there's no soldering involved at all, because I couldn't have done it if there was, quite frankly. But once you do install them, all you need to do to swap them out and put another set in is literally disconnect one wire on each pickup, and then you're done. That's it. It's kind of like putting Legos together. It's that easy. So go to emgpickups.com, enter ELG in the shopping cart for your discount code, and that's it. You get to take advantage of this offer right now. Man, this one's always a big challenge. If you want to buy or sell a home or investment property and you're here in the Tampa Bay area, in Hillsborough, Pinellas, or Pasco counties, then listen up. West Florida Real Estate is a local residential real estate broker that's helped over 250 Bay Area homeowners buy and sell their properties in the last 4 years alone. If you're looking to sell, you'll want to get their free report, The 7 Biggest Mistakes Homeowners Make When Hiring a Realtor. And if you're looking to buy a property, you definitely want to get your hands on the 21 Most Expensive Mistakes Tampa Home Buyers Make When Buying a Home. Each one of these reports is going to save you time and money. Inside, you'll discover the 7 most important things to consider when hiring a realtor, what to do if you're buying and selling a home at the same time, and the danger of choosing a realtor who agrees with everything you say. To get your hands on these free reports, head on over to westfloridarealestate.com. That's westfloridarealestate.com. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. We're going to give some much love to the rhythm section this day. Actually, with one of the really most well-experienced hard rock bassists around. Bassist, he's a bass monster, as a matter of fact. With James LoMenzo, who's played with so many different outfits and so many different people, and we'll talk about them. Before we do, I just want to give a shout out to Walter Eno. Walter, thank you for hooking us up.
Yes, thank you, Walter.
James LoMenzo, he's another one of my homeboys from New York City, of course. He's from Brooklyn, the other end. I don't think I've only been in. When you grew up in, I bet you didn't come to the Bronx very much.
No, not as much as I probably would have liked to now, because I'm very nostalgic about it all. I see the old. That's when the Bronx was thriving. I came up in Brooklyn in the 60s.
Yeah.
Born there in 1959, and it was a charmed existence. What a wonderful place it was, and I imagine it is now. It's changed so much, I barely recognize it. But
it's funny when you grew up in Brooklyn or the Bronx. It's the opposite of the D train. There's just never any reason to go. Nothing like, oh, I'm not going to Brooklyn. It's just like you didn't do. It's like you don't go there.
Well, the last time I was in Manhattan, I decided to go to my old neighborhood, and so I thought I'd get on the N train. I was in Midtown Manhattan. I thought I'd just jump. There's the N train. I think I'll go to the old neighbor and just have a walk around. And I got on that train, and after the first 20 minutes, I was sitting there going, my God, I hated this. I hated sitting on this train underground with this fluorescent lighting making everybody green and miserable. And it just, the ride kept getting slower and slower, just the way it looked to me. And so I finally got over the bridge, and I said, I don't need it.
You just turn around. You just walk on the other side of the.
I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, I have such fond memories of the place.
You don't want to.
My parents had closed down their house years ago. They'd moved away. There was really no point in going down there. My friends who I know had all moved to Staten Island and New Jersey. So usually, what happens when I plan in Manhattan or the tri-state area, I'll call them up and they'll come and see me.
Right.
We have a great time that way.
Very cool, man. Originally from Brooklyn, James grew up in a musical household. After high school, he moved out to L.A., then back to New York to start a band with former Rainbow drummer Bobby Rondinelli. The band, of course, was called Rondinelli. And James took Felix Pappalardi's place, which is pretty cool. He also toured with Aerosmith as a roadie for a week, and then he played he played lead singer bassist. He sang lead and played bass with Richie Blackmore. He was offered the bass slot with White Lion originally, and he turned it down. Moved out to L.A., found out the White Lion gig was still open. He auditioned, got the gig, recorded the Pride album, got signed to Atlantic. In '87, Pride got released, featuring the hits Wait and When the Children Cry. The album sold millions of copies worldwide, and he toured with Kiss and Aerosmith. He then met up with Zakk Wylde while the band was on tour with Ozzy. Those two guys hit it off and began working together in the band. How do you pronounce this band? Leonard.
Leonard Skinner.
Oh, it's just Leonard Skinner.
Leonard Skinhead.
Leonard Skinhead. Okay.
Yeah, see?
Skinhide. Whatever. Sowed the seed. That band sowed the seeds. What was to be a monster three-piece jam band, which was Pride and Glory, and they released one album in '94. In 1990, James worked with Zakk in Ozzy's band, working on and recording an unreleased version of Osmosis. That album, the album that they recorded, was not very different than the one that was finally released, featuring Geezer Butler on bass. Following that, James did a short summer tour with Ace Frehley. He then returned to L.A. to begin prep for that Pride and Glory album with Zakk we just talked about, with Zakk Wylde, James, and Brian Tichy, the drummer. In '95, James then got a call from Brian to fill in at the last minute for Slash's Snakepit. Shortly after this, James abruptly left the music business, and we'll talk about that as well. Dude, you've been, I know how much work is involved in doing all these things. Like, it sounds really glamorous, like, oh, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is working his ass off, because I know the hustle it takes to pick this gig up, get that, learn this material. You're busy. You have been a busy dude.
I appreciate that, Craig. I really do. It's, you know what? It's a set of unforeseeable circumstances that bring me to all those things. I can't tell you anything more than the drive I had to be a musician, to actually do this. I didn't have a plan, and I can't even tell people. I get in front of groups of people, like clinics, right? And I'll stand in front of a room of kids, and they kind of want to know how to do it. I mean, I don't blame them. This is fun when you get to do it the right way, you know?
Yeah.
I tell them, I don't have enough advice for you. I can tell you this. I can tell you to be prepared on your instrument. I can tell you should absolutely commit to loving this, otherwise run. Yeah. Because it is really tough.
Yeah.
But how all those pieces fit in, I don't know how the universe works. I only know that sometimes it works for me and sometimes it doesn't. And in most of the cases you've mentioned, a lot of that stuff's far and few between, but it's the right place at the right time, and I didn't pick those places.
Yeah. It's funny how that works, isn't it? But I think you got to be open to that, and then it comes to you, sort of, you know? Like if you're open to it, you sort of go with the flow, and it's there.
Well, when I was in Brooklyn, after I'd finished high school, my teacher in high school actually arranged for me to get a paid for it at almost a scholarship, but most of my expenses paid to go to Brooklyn College. And it was an agreement of I'd be in the music department and be in the first chair. French horn is what I played in orchestra. And I was pretty good at it. I would get the first chair seating. And so I was sitting there doing that, and I really loved playing bass guitar at the time. And that's a much longer digressive story. But at that point, that's where I was at. And I was kind of sitting in the middle of it going, I love playing rock music. I love doing this. And it's immediate. And I don't necessarily like the people I'm meeting in the orchestra world. You know, it's kind of a weird social thing.
Yeah.
And there was the convention of, you know, sitting there and being proper and all that. And I kind of liked it, hated it at the same time. So I put in 2 weeks in Brooklyn College, and they gave me all this other stuff that I had to do that I did not wish to do, you know, just to get my credit. And I just said, I got to rock. I'm done. So I started answering ads in the paper, and I remember my mom, like one summer afternoon, she goes, "All right, why don't you just go to school, just get started?" And I was like, "Mom, I'm not feeling it." And she goes, "Well, what are you going to fall back on?" And it occurred to me at that moment, like a little wise ass I was, I said, "Mom, I fully intend on falling forward."
That's really cool, though. That's great.
I made that declaration to both of us.
And they were cool with it afterwards?
No, hell no. But we're Italians, and she loved me no matter what, and I love her no matter what. So she gave me that, and she knew this stuff was in my soul, man. You know, I spoke with her a couple of weeks ago, and she's doing great. My dad passed away a couple of years ago, so she's on her own, but she's like, you know, she's in her 2.0. She's really thriving in a strange way. And so she tells me that she constantly goes back to this memory of me being at the public school when I was 6 or 7 years old, and bringing 11 years old, actually. I have to put this in proper context. I just learned how to play guitar, and I was playing songs of the day. This day I didn't have a guitar, but I had performed for the kids in different classes, and the teachers thought at this kind of Mayfair they had, you know, in Brooklyn on the cement, there were 200 kids in the school piled up, and they said, well, let's have James come up and sing a song. So I sang brazenly, without even thinking I should be scared, like "Hey Jude" from top to bottom, and then got all 200 people singing "la da 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 da."
There you go.
And my mom says, like, this, and to me it's like I forgot, you know. And she tells me this stuff, and I go, "Yeah, what the hell was I on about?" You know, I had this innate drive to do it. So she had this. She understood, like, there was an innate drive that I had that I just somehow had to make my art a living, breathing musical experience, you know, out in the world, exterior. And that's the way I look at music. I think it's the internal art. It's trying to get that voice that you have out. You know, it's funny when we go to do TV shows or backstage, you go, let's bring the artist in here. It's like, I can't paint, but I'll take artist, you know.
Yeah. That's very cool, man. So you've had it in you since a long time.
Yeah, and right out of the womb. You know, somehow, go ahead.
Let me finish the rest of your story. So shortly after that, James abruptly left the music business. A few years later, he was working as a graphic designer, and he started running into a few old and new friends in the music business. First one of them was Ray Luzier from Korn. I had Ray on this show. What a freaking wonderful guy. What a sweet guy.
He's an amazing drummer, an amazing human being. And a very dear friend.
Yeah, real cool.
For many reasons. Yeah.
So Ray at the time was playing with David Lee Roth. He does a great DLR impersonation, which I'm sure you heard. So Ray told James that David Lee Roth needed a bassist. James got the gig and then toured with Dave and Sammy Hagar on the Sam and Dave tour. He remained touring with David Lee Roth for a year and a half, and he also put together a jazz rock fusion band with Ray Luzier and Toshi Hiketa called Hideous Sun Demons. Then he winds up reconnecting with Zakk Wylde and joins Black Label Society. Gets hired. Then he gets hired. This is like incredible. but wait, there's more. This is like an infomercial. Then he gets hired to play with Megadeth, which he stayed with them for 4 years and 2 albums. He left Megadeth when Dave Ellefson and Dave Mustaine finally buried the hatchet of their feud. That was Megadeth's original bassist, and then he returned. The original bassist, Dave Ellefson, returned to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the band's Rust in Peace album. James then played with metal superstar jam band Hail, taking Paul Gray from Slipknot's place after he passed. He then did a stint in Lynch Mob with George Lynch, along with studio sessions with Kenny Aronoff, the great drummer. Now, this was wild. For Bobby Brown and DMC up at Frank Zappa's studio in L.A. It's like, this is like those little, what were those things called? Like which one of these pictures don't belong? So you have, White Lion / Zakk Wylde and DMC. Wow,
I mean, he digs in pretty hard. I think that's pretty.
Oh no, but I wasn't expecting that. Like, that's not like I'm reading down the bio. That was like, whoa, that was not what I was expecting. I'm going to talk about that, but. He also started his own production company along with his wife Angie and their longtime friend rock photographer Gene Kirkland, called Monster House Productions. We're going to talk about that. In 2013, James started playing with and is still with John Fogerty along with Kenny Aronoff. Dude, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
My pleasure, man. It really is.
What a story. So after high school, you moved out to LA and then back to New York. What prompted both of those moves?
Well, the first one was, I was in a band called, let's see if I remember what it was called. Eating a Valuable Airtime. That's how many brain cells I had for all these years.
It's all good, man.
I don't remember the name of the band. I think it was Metropolis, which is a strange name, but we were doing, we had a cover band in the tri-state area that I had joined, because I was going out to Long Island a lot and meeting up with a lot of musicians out there and like joining bands. There was a band called Hooker. We played all kinds of glam music and Judas Priest stuff. And I mean, that was really cool. I was kind of cutting my teeth on live performance and trying to figure out what that was really about on a bigger platform. So I did that. Then I was in a band called Insects, which is a 3-piece power band. Terrible name, but great blues band. Angelo Gallo was a guitar player, and a guy named Danny Dell was a great kind of Corky Lang surrogate. And then from that, I joined this Metropolis band because they had all these vocals and stuff. I was really interested in that at the time. So they were doing Styx and Queen, and their own music was heavily based in vocals too. Now, the thing is, they say, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but they say if you really want to work, you should be a bass player. I don't think that's true anymore. There are an awful lot of bass players. But back then, maybe, because bass players just keep falling off and going, well, I'm going to go work at my dad's meat store,
Right.
Bring the Costco or something like that, because most bass players go, I got, 4 strings, 4 fingers. What the hell am I going to do with this? Anyway, so that's why all these openings would come up, and I do these stints for like maybe a half a summer or so. So I ended up with this band Metropolis. Discotheques were really taking off. I mean, Twisted Sister was at that time trying to hold the bastion of this rock and roll thing,
right?
And the clubs had to make more commerce, and so they started switching to cheaper than hiring bands. We'll get a DJ in there, and people come and dance, right? And so, and I guess this is 79, maybe 80. And so our booking agent, Brenner, I forgot his first name, but he ran most of the tri-state stuff, and he was a good guy to have because he had all these clubs in his pocket. He's going, man, guys, you're just going to have to take lots less money and, buy your own PA, all this kind of stuff. We already had a PA. So what we did was we looked at each other and said, well, this sucks, So it was a 5-piece band. So we sold our PA and bought a van that was an ambulance, had the whole light show on the top and everything.
Holy crap!
Yeah, and we didn't have PA, so now we just had like these little 212 amps, and I had a little 215 amp and keyboards and all that. And we put all that stuff in the back, and 3 guys up front, and then 1 person on the bench, the sick person's bench in the back. And we headed to California. One of the guys in the band had a friend, and we just went to go see which way the wind blew. So we get out there, and
how old were you at the time?
Had to be 21, maybe something like that. That's pretty young. So we're out there sleeping on somebody's floor out in Redondo Beach, and life was glorious. It was beautiful down there. And so we started heading into the city, and I had some friends I had made in New York who had offices here. Artie Rip had an associate. So I said, let's go there and, see if we can drum up some interest. So we go in there, and the thing about this band was we could 4-part harmonies, like no instruments, nothing, just sing in somebody's face. And so we were doing a lot of that. And we were meeting all these crazy people. Roxy Roker, like we ended up at her house one time. Just
That's so funny. From the Jeffersons? That's
yes.
Slash's mom, isn't it?
Dinner, yeah.
That's so funny.
And so, weird shit like that would happen. We thought this is LA from the movies, only we're really living it.
Right.
So anyway, this guy Mitch Lieb, he's still a big shot, I think. Anyway, he kind of decides he's maybe going to sign us to their label. We get these managers from Las Vegas who subsidize us, put us in apartments. They weren't really managers. They were more like jewelry dealers who like to gamble.
And they just wanted to try to get in the music business.
They wanted to just try it, yeah. And so they put us in apartments here. We practiced every day at SIR. Across the hall was the Go-Go's practicing. They already had their album out the year before, but, they were still doing their thing. And so the drummer was taking lessons from our drummer. We were kind of cross-pollinating. And it was really great because all of a sudden we were experiencing all this stuff. Well, we weren't really, the whole signing thing was a little more, taking a little longer than we thought. Our managers, there's my air quotation marks, had gambled the rest of the money they put in an account for us away, so we had no rent.
Oh, my God.
So our drummer, Enzo, panicked and ran, and that left us without a drummer, and then the keyboard player went back home to his wife because she talked him into, like, this isn't working out. So it's me, the guitar player, were left there. I ended up crashing on my cousin's couch and doing that thing. We tried to kind of last bastion it. Long story, boring. I just go back to New York, crash back at my parents' house, get a job. My dad puts me to work on his construction site, and I start taking other gigs out in Long Island. Wow. And that was, I think that was when the Insects band started, the 3-piece thing. So I was basically just trying to do, my get up in the morning at 6 o'clock.
That's a tough job. You do working on a construction, and
here's how tough it is.
Oh, shit.
So I'm talking to kids these days, and they're like, oh my God, I want us to play for an hour. And I go, wait a minute, let me run this real by. This is my day, okay? Yeah. So I'd work all week doing the construction thing. On Friday, I'd get off at 3 o'clock, get home, grab a bag, grab my bass. Now, you can see I'm not like a big guy. I was no bigger back then.
Right.
Got a big Fender bass with a hard case, so that's a good maybe close to 30, 40 pounds. And then my bag. Meet the drummer, take the subway to the Long Island Railroad, meet up with Danny, the drummer, pick me up. We'd go to our rehearsal spot. We'd pack up a 40-foot truck. We would go to whatever club we were playing, however long that took. We'd unload that truck. I was the littlest guy, so I'd go under and I'd bolt the drum riser together. I would climb up the ladder and put the lights on. Again, the littlest, lightest guy. Everybody else would be putting PA and lifting all the heavy shit and stuff like that. And then we'd go on to do 3 costume changes, and we'd play 4 sets. And the first set was a glam set of David Bowie stuff like that. The second set was Judas Priest, we dress collars and leather stuff. And then the third one was just a rock set. We'd play Rolling Stones and things like that. And then we'd have a reciprocal set at the end of just throwing shit together until they felt like stopping serving drinks. And then if I was really lucky, I didn't have to go back and we'd pack the truck up, but I wouldn't have to go back and drop the stuff off. They just leave it in the truck till the next night. And if I met a young lady, I could spend the night at least in her car or at a diner. It wasn't always salacious, but nonetheless, this is basically, that was night number 1. Night number 2, do the same thing, some other club, maybe somewhere else in the tri-state area. Get home on Sunday, crash, get up at 5 a.m. the next morning.
Oh, yeah. That's a brutal job working construction, too. Back in the day, it was 19,
20. I didn't give a shit. Yeah. It was great. I couldn't get enough of it. I was also a runner. So right out of high school, my whole thing was, 10 miles today, 10 miles. So, I had the energy to do this kind of,
Okay. Wow.
So anyway, that's,
Were you playing all those clubs on the island? What were the big clubs that you played?
Hammerheads.
Right.
That was the big one. The Chance, there's a place called the Cheers or something like that. We used to call it Chairs because sometimes people just didn't come out.
That's wild. Did you play L'Amours in Brooklyn and stuff like that?
Well, that's where the whole White Lion thing. We should probably just get to that when we get to that. But that's when the White Lion thing came up. That was in my neighborhood. That was after I came back from LA that time, and I'd finished up doing all that club stuff. My younger brother Pete, he was cluing me in. He goes, "Oh, this place, it used to be a strip club like by us, and now it's a rock club." And like all of a sudden, he started telling me like Iron Maiden was just there, and all these like Motley Crue was just there. I go, "What? What's going on here?" It's like just 5 blocks away from where
That's
my parents
wild.
lived. Yeah, and so that became a bastion of a good place to kind of meet and greet and do all that stuff. So that's actually my first step into getting to the White Lion band.
When you first turned down White Lion, and I read the bio why, maybe you could talk about why, but then when you went out to LA and accepted it, it seemed like that was a bit of a low point for you. Like you had a bunch of stuff go wrong at the same time. None of it your fault, just shit happened. If you could talk about why you initially turned it down, what was going on at the time?
It was great. This is what the universe will do to you.
Yeah.
Okay. No, not in a bad way at all.
No, I know. It puts you in a spot that you wouldn't. Yeah. It forced you to do something good for you.
I've learned from that experience, and in retrospect, to really embrace all these things that happen to you that are weird. So the White Lion band, I'm in the Bobby Rondinelli band, right? Again, another Long Island thing. I'm still going out to Long Island doing stuff, right? And we have a band with Ray Gillen, the late great Ray Gillen, who played with Badlands and actually made his bones there. Wonderful singer. Him and I shared a room in Bobby Rondinelli's parents' bedroom. I mean, not in their bedroom, but like in their home, because that's where Long Island. You stay with the Italian families, you stay forever.
Yeah.
So they were very supportive. We used to practice in the basement anyway. So, we
wait a minute.
went out.
Did they have plastic on the furniture?
You know what? They did. Okay. In all fairness, they did not. They did have the gold records right over the couch, though, which I always thought that was garish, but it'd be like walking to the house. Here's the gold records, and it's kind of like there's a doily under it. But nonetheless, and they were very gracious. They were wonderful, wonderful people. But anyway, so we did our band in that basement out in Long Island, and we started hitting the clubs. So I'm getting to the whole White Lion point. We play at L'Amour's, and I was like a customer there, but now I was like a performer there. And so the George and Mike, the guys who ran the place, saw me up there playing bass, and we were doing like Led Zeppelin keyboards. I was doing that, and that was a great band. I don't know if the material was that good, but we sure played the shit out of it. Anyway, we played to a pretty good crowd, and not too long after that, I had already made these plans to go back to LA just to go, because I'd already been there. I love the way it vibed, and I thought I had a handle on it. And I thought maybe, I'm going to see if I can crack that nut again, because there's interesting musical things going on there. And so let
me ask you, sorry to cut you off, but you're obviously somebody that does not get deterred by stuff not working the first time.
No. It's supposed to not work the first time. Otherwise, you can't figure it out. You got to break something to fix it, right?
Yeah, man. But sometimes you don't know that when you're like 20 years old. I
figured that. I honestly did figure that out a long time ago.
Did you really? That's great.
It was all about wits for me. I mean, again, I'm a little guy. All right. I mean, literally, I'm a little guy, 5'6", and in Brooklyn, it's a fairly tough place. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Parts of it where where they'd hope, where you'd run across some tough guys. And my thing was I was able to diffuse and play the situation. I realized that everything was the situation. And if you could control your aggression and control your emotions in a good way, just, just take an extra breath back and think about what you're actually experiencing, you can actually save your life or, at least get out of bad situations. So I've always been accepting about whatever comes to me, which is terrible. Nobody ever broke my arms. I was always able to make people who meant me harm eventually laugh. Yeah. And not being a clown. I mean, just, kind of just showing them that I wasn't intimidated and yet I was on board with whatever they were trying to put onto me. I have tons of stories about that, but you don't need that right now. Anyway, so not afraid to go anywhere. I thought I'd go back out to LA and just see which way the wind blew. So I called up my cousin. I said, hey, I'm going to come back out there. I'm going to take my motorcycle, take my guitar, unscrewed the neck of my precision bass, wasn't a very good one, put it in a bag, got the motorcycle and went, and, parents were a little sad, but they were supportive still, so off I went and I landed on his couch and I, immediately I opened up the LA, whatever it's called, recycler, and found a job as a motorcycle messenger. And I thought, this is great. I'll learn my way around LA, $8 an hour. Are you fucking kidding me? That's a fortune, and I'll find a band.
Right.
Just that was my plan. And, my cousin was like, yeah, as long as you need, man, no problems. And,
do you know, I did that job in New York City as I was a foot messenger in the summertime. I remember making $2.90 an hour. And I felt like when they let me work overtime, it was like a home run. Because I was 14. It was like, what the hell?
Well, at 14, that's $2 an hour is not bad.
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah. Sorry, man. I haven't heard that term messenger in so long.
Yeah. Well, I was a motorcycle messenger before that in Manhattan. That was one of the temporary jobs I took. And if you want to, if you like video games, try jumping in one.
Yeah, that's like playing with your life, man.
Yeah, cabs and your life. Well, I made that. Okay, so we did fine with that. So I get this job as a motorcycle messenger out in LA. And I'm loving it, man. I'm going down to the courts, downtown, uptown, valley, the whole 9 yards. And so one day, as luck would have it, I changed the oil. Then even before I changed the oil on my motorcycle, which I needed to do, there was a bottom fairing thing to cut wind. I'd taken that off, and I left it off. And that's very important because my way to work the next day, I'm driving and about a block away from where I'm supposed to check in to pick up my packages. And I'm on the right side of of cars waiting for a stoplight. And as I'm going, and I was supposed to be in that lane, as I'm going past them, this Lincoln Continental, one of those old school 70s ones with the long nose, just guns it and pulls out right in front of me. Now, it was a 5 mile an hour crash, nothing tragic. I just could not grab the brakes fast enough. So I did something I always thought I would do, and I ejected myself as quickly as I could. I just kind of leaned off to the side and said, I'll just jump and roll. And so the car caught the front of the bumper, but on that impact, as I was leaving, that bottom corner fairing, which would have been a smooth surface, was now an edgy thing, and it cut my knee open.
Oh, man.
So now I can't move. I got to get in an ambulance. I got to get sewn up, the whole 9 yards. My bike gets towed away. So I'm sitting on my cousin's couch, and actually I'm sitting on the band couch that I'd moved in on. And then I call my cousin, and I go, I got to get the fuck out of here and figure something out. So he puts me on his couch. He's right up the block from the Whiskey Go-Go. So I'm sitting there, woe is me, crutches. He's actually bathing me at the time. And I'm going, shit, so I got to do something. So what do? I said, let me go to the Rainbow.
Have a drink.
So I get on my crutches and I hobble down to the Rainbow. And I'm in the corner of my mind, I was thinking maybe I'll find some young girl that'll be sympathetic to my plight, and I'll just start a life that way. And
isn't it funny the thoughts that go through your head at certain times?
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing's hotter than some little 5'6" dude walking into the Rainbow.
In crutches in the Rainbow Room. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm standing at the bar as you would. I'm standing at the bar as you would. And a guy next to me turns around and goes, James. And I look at him. I go, John, a friend of mine from New York. And he goes, dude, how you doing? I said, what are you doing out here? I said, I'm just hanging with some friends for the weekend. I go, he looks at me, he looks at the crutches, he goes, the hell are you doing? I said, I had a little bang up. I'm a little dire straits at the moment. I'm just trying to figure out the next move. So he just, without skipping a beat, he goes, well, you remember that White Lion band? And what I told him was this. I said, oh, that second-rate Van Halen cover act. And I know it's terrible to say now, but I'll tell you, before I had left, the guys from Lemoore had me down to take a look. They said, we want you to play in this band. You'd be great for this band. And so I went, and the place was packed, and they got up there, but they were so much like Van Halen. I was going, well, where are they going to go? There's already one. I didn't see that there was a place for this band. Okay, and I thought they were great. I thought Vito was great. I thought Mike was a great front man, but it just seemed too similar. And it seemed like they were chasing that too much. It just seemed like it wasn't going to go anywhere. So, but back in the Rainbow, he goes, well, I bet if you called up the guys at Lemoore, they'd probably fly you out because they were still talking about you after you left. And, they're going to go do a record in Germany in a month. And I was like, Germany? I've never been there. So I did reluctantly. I saw this as a savior in a way. So I called them up and I said, look, I'd be very interested, And so I went back home, and 2 days later I was sitting there in their rehearsal room down in the basement of Lemoore and kind of really digging it. I was surprised. The drummer they had was different. It was Greg D'Angelo at this point. They had a guy named Nicky Capozzi who was very John Bonham-y. Greg used to take lessons from Bobby Rondinelli when I was playing with him, and that's how come I recognized him. So that was different. Vito seemed really nice, you know, and he played guitar really well. And Mike was really effusively nice, and that made me feel really comfortable. And so we started going through songs. I was listening to what they were doing, and I was going, this isn't heavy metal, man. This is like pop music.
Yeah.
You know, and I was weirdly intrigued by it because I was going, this has like some real good possibilities. Like I was hearing visions of Queen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you know, they weren't even trying to sell me. I was just getting sold by listening to what was going on in the basement. So we started playing together, and I grabbed the mic and sang with Michael. And, you know, everybody was kind of happy about that. And we were harmonizing well together. And it seemed like that was good. So it was just, you know, big handshake. Hey, we'd love you to do this. And I was like, I'm in. Let's go. Okay, so we got a month. We're going to get this record together, and we'll go do it in Germany. And the rest is mostly history, you know.
That's so cool. Why were they going to Germany to make the record?
They had a connection with a producer there who was going to fund half of it, and he wanted to make a name for whatever his business was doing. Yeah. So they made a deal with him. So it made sense, and we can get it done. I mean, and, you know, the Lamore guys were great because they realized, you know, getting it done is better than getting it done right sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, getting it done is, The good is good is better than you know, good is good enough.
Yeah, good is always good enough. And that was a fantastic experience going with these guys and going to a completely foreign place I'd never been to, and actually living with them in Frankfurt. We got along great. So, you know, it was all ups at that point. And
your leg was healed by the time you got back out there?
Yeah. My neck was kinked for like quite some time, and I was kind of numb for like, you know, years later. But now I'm 1,000% again.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. That's a cool story. It's funny how that works out, though, isn't it?
I don't know how it works out.
No, but all the shit down to I took this thing off the bike is kind of like where it started. Like, had that not happened.
Yes, no. This is the kind of thing that happens in my life all the time, and I guarantee it happens in your life. And I'm talking about the people who are listening to us right now in your life. Yeah. If you just really open your eyes and pay attention, there's a weird series of non-accidents that are going on all the time. You're running into people in the weirdest of. I ran into a guy I knew that I met at a club in New Jersey 2 months later at the top of Notre Dame Tower. I was up there just taking pictures. There was nobody there. It wasn't even crowded. And there was like literally there was nobody, you know, like usually there's lines. It was just I was in the morning with Megadeth, and it was just like on my own. And I turn around, and somebody like there was one other person there, and he goes, "Hey, James LoMenzo."
Like, how weird is that?
It's not a good friend, but somebody that I just spent like 10 minutes talking to backstage in Jersey like a couple of months earlier. And like, how do you know, when do you leave your hotel? When does he leave his hotel? Yeah. What bus take? He's on foot. How does that happen?
I know. That's it. It blows me away. So listen to this. I interviewed a bass player called Craig Martini. I don't know if you know him. He's in Cleveland. And this morning, and yesterday, I said, man, I was listening to some music, and Larry Graham was the bass player, I think. I said, man, I need to see if I can get Larry Graham on this show. That guy's probably got some great stories. Yeah. So I write someone in his camp. And then today, Craig mentions Larry Graham has had such a big impact on my life because I learned this lesson from watching. And I'm like, now I'm going to get him on the show because I know that. Because why are you mentioning him to me? Right? You're the first person in 550 interviews to mention Larry Graham.
The walls are closing in and the wheels turning in your direction.
Right. So that's and it's like this. The last 3 people I've interviewed, the last 3 people have mentioned Jimmy Crespo.
Oh, Jimmy Crespo was on tour with Aerosmith when I was roadieing.
Right. And I'm like, why did the last 3? So I said, now I got to go get Jimmy Crespo on the show because like this is like the universe saying, hey man, you need to get Jimmy Crespo. You know, hello, the 3rd time. You've
opened the portal now. It's a conduit.
Right, man. I have to like, you know. Sorry, no, I agree with you. This shit happens all the time.
I love it, man. It really gives me a reason to wake up every morning and see what the next one is.
Yeah, right. As long as they're good. When the bad ones come, sometimes they're like, huh.
The bad ones, man.
So let me throw out some names for each of these folks you've worked with. Talk about how you got the gig and if there's a cool or interesting story about working with them. Let's start with Richie fucking Blackmore, man.
That's a really uninteresting way to blow my mind. What happened was I was with Bobby Rondinelli doing all this kind of stuff with his band, and you know, Bobby and I hit it off as friends, and you know, we could hang together, and you know, so he was playing in Rainbow with Richie Blackmore before that, and so he was out of Rainbow, and that's when he had started the Rondinelli band. And so I was spending a lot of time with him. And he calls me up. It was around just after it was the Christmas holiday. I don't remember if it was before New Year's or after. But he calls me up and just matter of factly, he goes, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" And I said, "Oh, man, you're just home with the family, you know." He goes, "Well, come on out to Long Island. Me and Richie are going to jam at a club. You play bass and sing?" So I was like, "You got to understand, I'm a huge Deep Purple fan before all this stuff, you know? I mean, you know, when Smoke on the Water came out, that was kind of when I noticed. And then when I got that Machine Head record and listened to all of it, I was like, you can do blues and rock and all this classical all together? Yeah, it's mind blowing." So anyway, big fan. And so I was too young and stupid to be afraid, but somehow intellectually I knew I had to kind of dispel any fear that might creep in. So I just, "Give me a set list. What do we do?" And so he goes, "Well, we're doing The Fire by Jimi Hendrix. We'll do Smoke on the Water." Nothing difficult, just the stuff that anybody would do a cover. And so, I mean, simple as that. I just went to I went with Bobby to this little club, and it barely held 50 people. It's more of a bar. Wow. It was out in Long Island by where Richie lived. He had some property out there back then. And the thing that knocked me away was, I went to the stage and, there was a little bass amp there and there was some drums. But there was Richie Blackmore's, and I knew about this stuff because I used to read the Guitar Player magazine and all that stuff. There was a 212 Marshall, which was a combo Marshall, which, you expect them to see the big 412 stack. Right. But right after that, it was dwarfed by this giant Sony tape recorder. And I was a little kid. I just, I creamed myself. I look at this thing and I go, God, there it is. Because I'd read that that's how he gets his tone. He uses that as a preamp in front of the amplifier and also uses the slapback of the tape rolling around.
Oh,
and I was
shit, I didn't know that. That's wild. So he used this giant tape recorder as a preamp?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I've never heard that. That's wild.
He had a thing.
Holy.
And so, so we got up there. He rustles into the club. I barely had one drink. Come on up. It went so fast that first time that I didn't even catalog it. It just, when you went through songs and I just, intuitively, I thought, just think of him as a really good guitar player. Stop right. Don't do all the other stuff because you're going to start fucking. And that's what I did. And, I had Bobby there to give me ballast because I'd been playing with him for a while. So I felt really comfortable about having, that there. And so I was able to get through it. Afterward, I immediately, I just beelined off the stage because the weight of it just fell on me, And again, I'm a young fan. What am I going to say?
So all of a sudden, all, oh my God, I'm standing here.
And I'm terrified.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like, did I do good? Did I do good? Bad? I was fine. I know I was fine.
Yeah.
Right? I go to the bar and I go stand there. I go, okay, act cool, act cool, act cool. I don't even know what that is, but yeah, act cool. So I'm holding my drink, elbows to the bar, and Richie starts walking out with his case. He's going to leave. And I thought maybe, give him a nod. And so he turns directly, he looks directly at me in the eyes, and I freeze. And I think he could see that. And he leans into my ear, gets way too close in my personal space. And he goes, "You were really quite good." And he looked at me, he's waiting for me to say something back. And that just crippled me.
You're frozen.
I couldn't open my mouth. And he left the club. So later, a couple of days later, Bobby goes, "Hey, we're going down to Richie's house. He plays soccer every week. Can you play soccer?" I said, "No, I can't play soccer." He goes, "Well, you can eat barbecue and drink." I said, "Yeah, I can do that." So I was like, "Yeah, I got to get past this fucking star shit. I got to get past it."
Right.
So we go to his house, and it's a backyard, and it's lush, man. It's beautiful. It's a little Tudor house in the middle of the woods. And I go up to him. I'm going to say just fucking, "Hi, Richie. Great to know you, blah, blah, blah." I go up to him. I shake his hand, and it happens again.
Oh, my God. Tongue-tied.
And so he goes, "Hi, James. Good to have you here." And I go, "Hey, Richie, great." And I was like, "Where's your bathroom?"
Oh, my God.
And so, but I went because I had to, because I guess whatever was happening. And I got to tell you, that was the first best stop of that picnic barbecue because he had this little one off of the kitchen, and it was tiny. And right over the toilet, as a man would face, is his gold record, like one of the rainbow records.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
It's worth every penny. Anyway, we did it 2 or 3 times after that. I got over it, and it was fine. But that was the initial interesting story about that.
That is really cool, man. Thank you. That is wow. What a once in a lifetime sort of.
Yes.
And the fact that it was just like a jam probably was so much better for you than if it was like, auditioning or something, or I don't know, something like that.
Oh, yeah. No, I would have fallen by the wayside early if that wasn't actually happening. So I was thrilled with that. It, gave me that incredible thing I needed at that age, some kind of validation. I needed validation. I needed to feel like I was on a good track.
Dude, that's about as great a validation as you can get. Richie Blackmore telling your bass playing is good. I mean, seriously.
Well, he didn't hire me for Rainbow, so maybe not.
Who wound up playing in Rainbow bass?
Oh, Roger Glover went back, so he was in good company.
Yeah. Snakepit, Slash's Snakepit.
That was we had finished up business with Pride and Glory and been all over the planet and stuff like that, and bad business ended that the Pride and Glory thing, which was a shame because I thought that was a great band. It was like one of those.
What happened there? Because one album came out, that was it.
Yeah, no. Well, Geffen was basically kind of lost interest in what we were doing because the Seattle stuff was coming on.
Okay,
so
I've talked to so many guys that got literally. It was going to be hard.
It was the timing was awful. I'm still shocked at, I travel the world, literally I travel the world, and I see people with all kinds of interesting accents who come up and tell me how important that record is to them. So, it accomplished something. I love that band because to me, we were like this weird kind of cranked up, tilted version of Cream. Like we could play a verse and a chorus and then do all kinds of things. And that was, credit to Zakk and Brian,
That cover of the record is really funny. It's like, isn't Zakk drinking like a pure alcohol or something? Like, I think it's really funny.
What our set design was in that band? We used to come out, like we played the festivals, and we had a big barrel with rope on it full of ice and beer, and we just drop it in front of the drum riser. We really need to learn how to be more professional. But that was I digress. Where were we going? Where was it going?
Slash's Snakepit.
Slash's Snakepit. Okay. So I was sitting at home, and I honestly didn't know what to do with myself. I just, my daughter was relatively new, and, we're kind of finding my way around. I needed work, So I started doing some graphic design at a friend's behest, and I was doing some album CDs and stuff like that, and just kind of getting my feet wet with that. And I get a call one night.
You did a couple of well-known albums, didn't you?
Well, I don't know how well known, but Gilby Clarke's records. I did two of his, and I did Mike Tramp's record. Took the photographs for that. I really loved that. We went out to Nevada and took a bunch of running photographs, and I did the album work for that too. And I did a bunch of other stuff that I can't recall. There's a band called Peppermint Creeps. That was fun. But anyway, so I was doing that. I was busying myself with that, and the phone rings, and it was Tishy. And he goes, we're leaving in 3 days, and Mike Inez had to leave this, and, Matt Sorum had to leave, and, Slash is going out to tour. You think, it was 5 days, but 3 days of rehearsal. And so he goes, you think you can do this? And, I was like, yeah, I got it,
Yeah.
Not that I didn't want to, but I mean, I was looking for the next thing to do. I wasn't really looking forward to a big tour, but that's what it was going to be. And so that was fairly harrowing because there's a lot of music that I just didn't know to learn in order to rehearse for 3 days. That meant I had basically a day or two to learn the songs first.
Yeah.
So I made these giant copious sheets on 16 by 13 paper and just put as many things down as I could and put them on the drum riser. And I think that's the way I played the first gig or two, just that way, kind of looking around,
Was that the first Snakepit album?
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah.
That was a good record.
Great music, a great tour. I mean, Slash draws all those wonderful people that I love to meet, and so I got to play All Right Now with Paul Rogers out in England.
That's really cool.
Snakepit, but I mean, those are the kinds of things I live for.
What's it like when you hear Paul Rogers singing to the microphone? His voice is just so fucking amazing, man.
It's just some people are undeniable, man. That's now I play with Fogerty now. It's the same thing. I can't believe these people are just that. They don't try, they don't fight it. They open their mouths and that happens.
Yeah.
And that's they're duly rewarded by us fans because they have that thing that we love.
Yeah. Okay, so how about Megadeth now?
Now Megadeth was again. there's this rule of the universe, right? What's that thing? The definition of madness is doing the same thing over again.
Yeah, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Okay, so I finished up with David Lee Roth. I bought a house in Castaic, And
is that California? Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's up by, for people who drive through here. If you go up the 5, there's Magic Mountain. That's the big, there's Six Flags on the East Coast, so it's that kind of thing. So anybody who's been through here knows where that is. But it's kind of, when you start getting out of LA and heading up north, that's like the last truck stop out of town, so to speak.
Okay.
And so I bought a house on the last truck stop out of town. It's nicer than that, it's developments and stuff like that. But settle in there. And then, my wife goes to me, she goes, Zakk lives up the hill. I've seen him since Pride and Glory and stuff like that. And so I was like, really? So that day I was putting up a fence to keep our chihuahuas from, running down the hill. I was putting chicken wire at the bottom of the fence, and that was, so I had the roll there, and I put like 2 feet of it together. I still had like 60 feet to go. And so I was sitting back and I said, yeah, I'd give him a call. So I pick up the phone and I go, hey, Zakk, man, how you doing? I go, hey, James, how you doing? I go, oh, good, man. Hey, we're neighbors now. And he goes, I'll be right there. So he shows up with a case of beer.
Right.
Really think we needed a case of beer, but he was enthusiastic. And he sits down next to me, and we sat there and we looked at that half, set up chicken wire and stuff, and drank some beer and just started talking about all the shit we loved and, getting on that thing. And it was immediately familiar. And so, so 2 or 3 days later, we phone contact, all that. He shows up with the drummer at the time in Black Label, Craig Nunemacher, his big dually Ford fuck you pickup truck, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, hey, come on, I'm doing a record.
Zakk said, come on, I'm doing a record.
Yeah, I'm sitting there with like a bowl of cereal as a breakfast and stuff like that. And I look at my wife and she kind of looks at me and I kind of shrug. And, all right, off we go. And so that was it. We did the Book of Shadows. I think he had some other bass players on there, but I did the bulk of it. And he invited me to join the band. And so we did that for years and years. And that's how I ended up there. And yeah.
How about Megadeth? How did that happen?
Megadeth was after that. Okay. So again, the doing the same thing and being insane and, that. Okay. The stuff with Black Label, I mean, a lot of the stories are very true. I mean, it was, police showing up at awkward times, just shit hitting the fan. It was like being in a biker gang. In fact, when we were in England, there were bikers after our fans and after us and threatening us with all kinds of stuff. And that's a whole
like why? Without like getting gossipy?
Turf, like real fucking biker turf shit. They didn't want our fans wearing things that looked like they were a biker gang. Oh. So they were just trying to assert, and they had control over the clubs we were playing, etc. I mean, it's scary shit.
That is scary. You can't fuck with those people. That's not logical. You can't explain your way out of that. That would have been a tough one, James.
No, you need help, and we actually had help, but that's a whole nother story. I can't tell it on this. But holding a knife to the tour manager's neck and explaining where things really were, stuff like that. So I got burned out on it, man. I mean, it was a lot, and that was one of the big reasons why I just declined after a while. We did some heavy touring, we did some records, made some great music, but I just couldn't keep up with it.
Well, plus you had a daughter at home. You're probably thinking in your mind,
it wasn't.
This is not really a good dad move.
Yeah, no, it was definitely not a great thing. It wasn't great for my family. It wasn't great for my own mental health. Yeah. So settled out of that, and there I am. My wife had taken a job working somewhere, so I was at home just basically being Mr. Mom, and that was fine. That was really deliriously wonderful after all that experience. So I get a call from a friend of mine, Alan Steelgrave, who was working for ESP Guitars at the time. He's an old friend of mine. And he goes, hey, man, I got a band for you. You want to do? And I have to work. So, I was like, well, what is it? He goes, oh, it's one of the big metal bands. So I go, well, it's not going to be Metallica because Trujillo's in that. Megadeth. He goes, I can't tell you, man. Just look, get me a package together, get me a, bio and stuff like that, and I'll send it. I said, you're going to send this to Dave Mustaine, right? He goes, I can't tell you what it is.
And you're relentless, so you probably made this guy's life.
A friend.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so sure enough, I finally get a call from Dave Mustaine. And I'd never spoken to him. I'd never even met him. And he was very cordial. He told me, he said, I listened to your CD. I think you're very good. And I said, well, thanks, man. He goes, no, I think you're a really great bass player. I'd love you to come down and audition. And so that was it. He told me to come down, learn a couple of songs, meet him. We met at his manager's office on Sunset at the time. And I thought it was going to be a rehearsal hall. Nobody told me. So I bought like a whole 412 and amps and stuff like that. And I rolled this into it was on Sunset Plaza too. There are all these people dining, their little baby chihuahuas and stuff like that, rolling in gear, and sat there, ran through some tunes, and it was just very matter of factly. He was kind of like, yeah, it's really good. Sang with him a little bit, and off we went. I realized, and this isn't to take anything away from Dave or Megadeth, but everybody said he's a really tough guy. Okay, and so I thought when he was calling me, I thought it was that thing, like I was the like Father Merrin from The Exorcist. Kind of like, who are we gonna? Because it started seeming to me like when I get calls, it would always be like, who are we gonna get for this one, And I started getting those calls, for people who were noted as being difficult people. And as I mentioned before, I've always felt that I had this skill to diffuse, confrontation.
So you think that's why they were sort of coming to you, because you could...
I think so. Yeah. I think a lot of people came to me and figured, well, this guy could probably handle himself, without getting in over his head or. And I got to tell you, I found Dave to be a wonderful guy, and we became best of friends. Yeah. He really got close. So, he's one of those geniuses, man. So, his stuff rolls. And that's something that, what I took from being in Megadeth was that there are so many parts. Watching Dave do his thing, there's so many small parts that are actually very big parts in everything, not just the music, not just the promotion, not just the writing of songs, but it all matters and it all hinges. And up until that point, I don't think I really ever internalized or considered that to be an important thing of being a rock and roll player,
Can you give me an example?
Really focusing on the music as it connects, as each part goes together. And then kind of breaking things down. And I've had other people, when I was in White Lion, Vito would go, play 20 bass parts for me. And, and I'll tell you which one's right. And I would go, well, I went to college. I understand theory. I can give you 4, and break it down like that. But the thing that I didn't get at that point was I probably should have respected his process. Okay. And the process is, because Dave's ultimately going to put his lyrics on it, and he's going to try and make it something that's clear. I think most of the Megadeth music appeals to people who feel somewhat disenfranchised and looking to belong somehow, or at least find somebody who can understand them.
That genre in general, that's the appeal. I had that conversation with Alex Skolnick from Testament. He mentioned the same thing. And, it's a lot of fans who are feeling like that. Disenfranchised is a great word for it.
Yeah, well, it's easy to do these days in this country, and not just this country. I was in Greece 10 years ago, and they were crying the same blues we're kind of doing right now. Anyway, so I found out that all the respecting the process for each individual, no matter how complex they may seem, is really important. And if you can get behind that, you can make some great music, and you can make great strides. Also, in marketing. And thinking about, I never thought about marketing until I was in Megadeth, and everybody does it like they take it on the cuff now, because we all hold phones and, we're all doing our own little marketing, trying to show people who we are and trying to brand ourselves in a way. This is common knowledge now, but right. In 2007, that was kind of stuff that people were just figuring out, and that, so I kind of got a head start on thinking that way.
So that was it was not just a good gig, it was a good learning experience for you as well.
It was great. I loved every bit of it. To me, the biggest challenge wasn't so much the music itself, although it's a lot of notes and a lot of parts to remember. Reminded me of symphony music, there are all these little parts that would come together and you'd have to learn them all. It's really hard to learn that stuff and internalize it, especially as I didn't know a lot of the music. Yeah. I only knew what on the radio and on MTV, So it was tough for me to get that inside me. Once I did, then the challenge was, how do you perform something like that where you need your hands on the instrument so much? How do you relate that to a big crowd? Yeah. And I'm really I've figured out a way to make a show on stage and play at that velocity.
So that's another component you got to think about, is the performance aspect of it.
I think that's important. I think because people, if they feel that energy from the music, if you can enhance it, there's lights on you, you're a human being. Some people can do it with the smallest of moves. But, to me, I just, I feel the same energy the headbangers do, because I'm a headbanger. I'm sitting there.
Right.
So I want to portray that, like, as not as an actor, but as a willing participant.
Yeah.
And David Lee Roth used to call it feats of strength. Try and do stuff up there that people imagine they can do, but try and actually do it,
Well, I give you credit for that, because not a lot of bass players. I mean, I've seen a lot of concerts. I don't see too many bass players engaged like that. You happen to have a super high energy. I mean, I could feel that, obviously, but not too many bass players do that, And I'm not looking for commentary. You know this already, but that
but that's part of the charm. There's a charm in a place for that too. It's just not me.
Yeah,
it's getting to be me. I'm getting older now. It's more charm.
That's okay. You get a pass, James. Talk about, you left the music business for a while. What prompted that, and what did you take away from that experience?
Well, that was a very profound experience. That's why I'm talking to you perhaps right now, for a number of reasons. I left the music business because I was getting pretty sad about it. I was starting to not really care about the music. I was feeling negative because I got caught up in 2 lawsuits. And I was ready, and I can't talk about the lawsuits for all the reasons that lawsuits exist, but they cost a lot of money. And, I'm not a miserly person who needs a lot of money. But at that point,
but that's pissing money down a fucking drain.
You can't believe it. Yeah. So this is the thing. At that point here in LA, I had $80,000 in a till, and I was ready to buy a home in, just outside of Encino. And they cost like $200,000 back then. So I had, that's a good down. And, I could have just had my daughter. I was like, this is a perfect plan. I got my daughter. And then the lawsuit comes and it locks all the money up. And so that money goes away. And it was a predatory lawsuit too. It was one of those things like, we'll just wait out the clock till you feel pain and we'll settle. So I got zero from that. So that's what happened there. And then there was another one where somebody didn't pay me, and so I had to chase after that money. So, I'm sitting out there and I'm answering ads. Again, I was, for a day I was doing porn boxes, like in one of those things, and that's a noble profession as well. But I couldn't stand there and look at that stuff all day. It's just felt like I'm starting to head to the bottom. Okay, that's where I'm going from here, and I owe it to myself and my family not to get there. We had moved into an apartment, my wife and I, on it doesn't matter where, but I was doing a lot of graphic design. I'd lucked out. I found some guy who was doing a business plan, and he was just kept pouring money at me every week to just stay there and just stay with him and just keep doing it. And that's, it was 80 pages, and he kept changing his mind and then doing posters for him and stuff like that. And so I was solvent. I was able to pay my bills and keep everything going. Unfortunately, the place we moved in, there was something, they had changed the ceiling at one point or something. So I guess they had put that MDF plywood in there.
Okay, yeah.
I'm telling you this because one day I went to go change the light bulbs on something on my car. And I went down to the basement with my daughter and a tool thing. And I almost passed out. I was afraid that I was going to pass out and she'd be on her own. She was only, 5 years old, 5 or 6 years old at the time. And so I, wrestled all my strength, got upstairs. My wife goes, "Oh, you look terrible." And I got on the couch. I said, "I can't move." So we went right around the corner was an urgent care place. And we went in there and they took a quick x-ray and then they cleared the place. And they're like, "We don't know what you got, but you got something bad in your lungs." And so, so they looked at my wife and my daughter and they had a lesser degree of it. So it was an environmental thing, obviously.
Oh my God, that is fucking creepy.
Yeah, it was more than that. Aside from being really exhausted, I didn't feel sick. It was a weird thing. I didn't feel pain or anything like that. So I was going, I don't really understand this, but I'm going to go with it. So I end up in the hospital. And, the doctors, all of a sudden the next day, my parents come from Northern California. I look at my wife, go, "What the hell are they doing here?" I go, "Well, all of them, And I go, "Well, this isn't." They go, "No, the doctors said
last 50. Rites and shit."
Yeah, the doctors were like 50-50. We don't know.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And so as luck would have it, and, whatever reason I'm here for, they shot me up with all kinds of antibiotics and it finally caught. And so I got out of it. I was weak for months after that. And so I went really slow. And so I that all that anger and stuff that I was carrying, all about the lawsuits and stuff like that. I read a book by Gary Zukav. and it was Soul Stories. Because I was sitting around there, I was just really like, I was kind of feeling woe is me. Like, why am I sitting here, like lost everything except my family's here, but I can't do what I need to do for them. Why are you doing this to me? That kind of thing. And then I read this book and it was great because it enlightened me in a way. It kind of pointed me towards more Buddhism. And I never thought I was raised a, Roman Catholic Christian. And I started, all these wonderful things that I'd always felt in my heart. I could forgive people. I could just do that. I could thank people for hurting me, and I can use that as a power for the future. All these concepts I didn't have. And I slowly digested that as I was sitting there healing. And so with that, I got better. I mean, I was slowly healing, from the pneumonia, but I was also getting better to my wife, to my kids, to myself. I was just being a better,
letting go of some of that shit that was
letting go of all the anger. I was able to really let it go, and I realized how lucky I was that I was actually healing. I understood that now. So from that, I started writing people letters that I might have done wrong to, and said, I want you to know that my intentions were this, but I might have done that, so I can only apologize.
That was cool.
So
are you guys gotten sober or?
No, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have those problems, drink. I don't have that gene, whatever that is, but I know a lot of people who do, so I understand where that is.
Yeah, because it's almost like, the make amends step.
Yeah, I think for me it was more, a mental amends. I need to basically, just go with the program, let the universe do its thing. I wasn't letting, and I was trying to control things after a while. And that'll happen to you if you're out there in the world. I think the world will dictate what it wants, and if you don't just go with that and understand that,
it'll give you a harder message. That's the problem.
Yeah. So that was the big, that was my big setback. My big, my savior in all that was that I started to listen to music again. I started to understand it. I started to try and figure out what I liked about it. And then Ray Luzier, God bless him, he basically said, hey, I got, Dave's wants to tour, So that changed my life, put me back on course. And being with Dave, my God, what an amazing first foray back in. When that guy's on stage,
I can't imagine.
The stage is bigger. I've never felt that with anybody else. Yeah. He does something. He has something, right? And he loves music, and he loves the musicians, and he loves every nuance of it. So he's very inspirational. One day we're on the bus going to a gig, and he goes, hey, you guys know that, what the hell is it called? Birdland. You guys know Birdland?
All you guys do the David Lee Roth voice. Is that like a requirement?
Anybody can do it just watching him on MTV, but live with him for a while. And it soaks in, man. So, yeah, we're on the bus in the back having the best time learning how to play Birdland. I'm doing all the Jaco Pastorius stuff and everything, and he throws it in the set that night as part of just something to talk over. Stuff like that every day. Anyway, I learned the joy of music. I learned why I'm here. I also learned that, I shouldn't fight it. I should go with things and just see where they land. And so that's what I got.
So you felt better. You started to heal physically, but more importantly, emotionally, you started to shed a lot of fucking stuff that was clogging you up. Yeah.
It's just money.
Yeah. Well, I know, but I get it because I've had to shed a lot of stuff, but baptism by fire, sort of, It's not easy, and you generally don't. I didn't learn on the first lesson.
Well, I'm not perfect at it, mind you. This day, much better.
Yeah, well, we're all
functionally better.
Work in progresses, yeah, man. That's a good story. Thank you, man. I'm glad. Whatever happened with that sickness? Were you able to get out of that place, or?
Oh yeah, we got out immediately. Yeah, we got I needed people to help me move stuff. I couldn't do it for my family, and my family came around and helped out. It was great.
That's good. Crazy.
So yeah, it was it was just a time thing. Actually, the apartment we went back in that I was healing was overrun with cockroaches. How about that? And it wasn't a bad place. It was just it had a weird
better thing. Cockroaches and other shit. I guess
it almost seemed but that was like so there was in the middle of all that. It's like and this too.
Hey, what prompted you to start Monster House Productions, and what does Monster House Productions actually do, and how do you like that aspect of business, and have you gotten anything out of that? Besides financial, like what have you learned?
Monster House Productions, for all intents and purposes, is not shut down, but I'm not operating it anymore. What happened with that was I was again in the middle of gigs. And just before that, I was doing a lot of stuff in front of cameras for sponsors, for equipment manufacturers. And I was looking, the things I've always been into photography. I know you are too.
Yeah.
But that's been something I've carried with me.
Man, you really read that stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Wow, that's an incidental detail. That's interesting.
Street photography, that's what I used to do when I was messengering. I bet you did too.
I love street photography, man. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's just...
I have some of the most successful photos I have are from back then, and they're on film and all that, but carrying a camera out in the city,
Getting up early in the morning, especially where you got it's not crowded, but you can get up close with people. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So, where was I?
Monster House, sorry.
Yeah, so Monster House was, I was standing in front there talking about, how wonderful, you can't see this at home, but how wonderful this pedal is, or how wonderful these strings are, right? And I was looking, and I was like, the technology had moved along so far, I was going, well, that's just a digital camera, and that's just a microphone, and this, I know how to light stuff, and I was going, I should probably try and do this. I should probably use my cachet as a familiar face to kind of walk into places and see if I can get some accounts.
Yeah.
And I was interested in getting good at it, which is always my first. That's how I push myself. I'll choose something that seems interesting to me, and I'll just see if I can figure it out, right? And I think most people do that now.
Yeah.
Because the internet helps, you can get information immediately, and I realized that was an asset as well. So I did use that as well. And so first thing I went to is I had a relationship as an artist with Aphex, and I realized they had just changed hands with a new owner. And so I picked up the phone and I said, hey, I'm doing this thing now. I want to do videos for companies. Are you interested? And they let me in the door with that premise, and I kind of laid it out for them. I said, I understand how this stuff works, so I have a unique perspective. I know what you want to show. And, I can hire people to do it. I can do it myself. I'll add music to it. It'll be your own music on that, So that was actually a lot to offer for what I was offering.
Yeah, that is a lot.
It was a lot. And
especially from back then when this was first starting.
I knew what their budgets were, so I did undercut it by, a little bit. But I figured, what do I need and what can I get going? And I'll just start there. I won't keep it down there. And I realize that's unfair to the other people in trade, but I was just taking my shot,
No, man, you got to do what you got to do.
So, and they hired me, and I did good. They loved it. They kept bringing me video after video. And then the guy who used to work there moved over to Manly Labs, which is that really good high-end studio gear, and I love that stuff. And his first opportunity came up. He got me on the phone, and he said, hey, I want you to do this. And it just kind of went from one thing to the next. I did some charity promotionals just to keep the thing going, which I was very proud of. We covered a fundraiser for something called the Boot Campaign, which we just went and did documentary style, 2 cameras, talked to the guys from Sons of Anarchy, all the stars on it, did that, helped them with that. And so the thing was doing great. And I started getting calls from all kinds of people. And the problem was, then I got the Fogerty gig. Couldn't put anybody in there to oversee the thing. And I tried to do it, satellite-wise. But I just couldn't keep people on. I wasn't, pulling in that kind of money where I could just kind of keep them satisfied. So it had to be me. And since my attentions were split, little by little, I just deferred the jobs over to other people.
Sure.
Still capable of it. I still get calls. I still do jobs. And I like them. They're little productions. It's like my own little world. You know? These days, we had a place. The reason it's called Monster House is we had a place in the back of my house in Burbank that I was renting for a while, and it was a proper studio space. And so we did a lot of stuff there. And now I just set up in the garage. I have a tall ceiling garage, and I just, set up I'll make a backdrop there and do that kind of thing there whenever it comes. And I love when I get those gigs. The idea, again, was just to fill in the blanks in between. But, it's not fair to have clients and,
well, if you're out on the road and you can't do it, you can't do it. It's as simple as that, man. Any outside of, you mentioned a couple. One was the lawsuits and leaving the business, and the other one was obviously when you got injured, which turned into a high point. Any other low points or dark periods you've had to deal with, James?
You know what? The loss of my dad was hard. I was on tour with John Fogerty. And it was about 3 years, going on 3 years now. and 4 years now. And we knew it was coming with him. And he was a guy. I have to say, my dad, his name was Jim LoMenzo.
You're a junior then.
Yeah. Well, that's why they call me James. They're trying to keep it clean, right?
Yeah.
He used to put us on our laps as little kids and play records for us. And his dream was to be like Harry James. He wanted to play trumpet. And his dad just, old school Italian, first generation, just moved here, opened up a shoe store, doing a good business and stuff like that, setting the family up. His dad wasn't having it, my grandfather.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you're going to work in the store for the rest of your life, all this stuff. So, my dad was very into it. And, he just shared all that stuff with us when we were kids. And, when he got one of those stereo console things, when color TV came out, he used to just put on the spindle, like, 2 or 3 records. We listened to the Italian crooners, which was great because to me it was all magic. I'd hear these strings. I didn't know what that sound was, but it was just, emotionally it would pull you all over the place. And then we listened to Latin music because he liked to have that because it would show how good the stereo sounded. Suave, zero there. And then he put on like his Tchaikovsky record. He wasn't really a classical guy, but he loved that stuff. So, I was like, oh, classical music. So he was like feeding all this stuff to me, like before I even knew what music was. Then the Beatles came along and, my brother bought the Meet the Beatles record. And he put that right on the spindle and he'd listen to that thing with us.
That's pretty cool.
Like he realized that was more music, And so, he was that wonderful guy. Anyway, when we got old enough and I put together a band, he let us practice in the basement. He was the guy who'd get the van and drive us to the gig and make sure we got paid and stuff like that, acting as our manager. And he would turn the volume on the PA and stuff. And he was a carpenter. He'd build me cabinets, show me how to do it, gave me all these gifts I had. So the reason that was particularly hard, when he passed away, I'd found out I was on that show, The Amazing Race. And actually, you're not allowed to have contact with anybody on that show. They take away your cell phone.
Wait a minute, you were on that? You were a participant?
Yes. I
didn't know that. How did that go? Sorry.
Well, I lost $1 million, which we could have probably won. But
that is wild. How'd you get on there?
Passport. That's actually a funnier story. But let me finish the story.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So I hear about it. He goes for a checkup, and we knew he was having some kind of problems. But the doctor said, "Oh, he's got maybe half a year." And I found out then, and I was in the middle of this weird surreal thing, and it was kind of good in a way because I got to deal with it with a lot of distraction, but on my own. So I brought that home and I prepared myself, and as time went on, I thought about him fondly, and we'd always called and talked every week, and always told him I loved him, always told him what I thought about him, always told him how much I appreciated him. So I never felt like there's like some people have that there's that thing.
Yeah.
Everything was said, right. And I knew. But what hit me about that was after he had passed, I was doing a show, and his wish was not to disturb me, for my family not to even call and tell them until afterward, because he didn't want, he was so happy and proud of what I was doing. He didn't want to bother me with that stuff.
Yeah.
So after that, I think the hardest part about that, and it's probably been the most down I've been in a long time, is just realizing how much of this I've probably done for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to show him how much I appreciated that. So I had to find a way recently, over the past 4 years, of again, taking it back and trying to find inside of me what my own personal drive to do this was. Because there's always that, for a lot of us, there's always that drive to show how much, what somebody that important is meant to you, to show them that you understood that. So that was like my drive for such a long time. And now the gift is he's kind of like, in a way, kind of found a way to be on my own 2 feet for a weird internal way that I never even knew existed.
Yeah, because he was the source of your drive for all this time, and then when he was gone, you needed to feel authentic about what you're doing, so you had to find it in yourself, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Wow, man, what a touching story, man. I'm so sorry about the loss of your dad, and thank you for.
Oh, it happens at this age, man. But he had a great life, man. And, most of the people who knew him loved him. He was that guy.
How far away is your mom from you?
She's up in Northern California. They're up in Sonoma County.
So like a couple hours, 3 hours?
No, it's a good 6-hour run.
You get to see her often? Or?
Well, not as much as I like to, but every time we get into town, I stop in. We talk on the phone as much as we can.
Cool.
But anyway, the Amazing Race thing. That I got.
You're an industrious fucking guy. You probably did really well on that, man.
I didn't want to do that. We were doing great. We would have. The producer himself said, "Well, my partner lost his passport to a whole thing. I don't know if we have enough time. We don't have enough time to talk about that. But the producer said you guys would have won this
if he hadn't have done that."
Yes.
Wow.
But anyway, long story short, the reason I got into doing that was because my friend Mark Abatista is a lawyer. I needed a contract read, and he always wanted to be on The Amazing Race. So he goes to me, he goes, "What do you think about being on The Amazing Race with me?" He was going to do it with Ellison. Ellison went back to Megadeth. I'm out. And so, so he goes,
"I got to have a Megadeth bassist or I'm not doing it."
That was his whole point. He goes, I can't have my family do it, so it's got to be interesting. And so, he's great. He truly has a genius IQ. He's a great guy. But anyway, so he goes, "All right, I'll tell you what. You do a video of us that I can submit, and I'll read your contract."
Oh my God! So it was like on a whim, like
yeah. So I was going. So I was like, "Oh, this is great."
Okay,
so
fine, right.
To do this, they're not going to pick us, right? And then we did the video. It was really so good. I was going, "Oh fuck."
How long was that? How long of it? Were you out? Did it come at a time where you didn't have to drop anything, where you had the space?
And no, out of Megadeth, I was doing the Monster House stuff.
Oh, okay. So, wow. How long did that last?
It lasts for like you go away for a month, like almost. And then, you've got some weeks here and there that you have to do stuff with.
That is wild. And so, I'm sorry, I just don't watch any television, man. So I don't know any.
Yeah, no, I told him when he told me, did you that show? I said, "Oh, I turned it on in a hotel room one night, and it's a couple of people screaming at each other in a cab." No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, right. Wow. Well, good for you. Yeah, like I said, you're industrious, so I'm pretty sure you do well. I'm not surprised, man. You've played with so many great players. Tell me some of the favorite guitar players you enjoy jamming with.
Well, Zakk, absolutely.
Yeah.
Zakk is great. George Lynch is just, I'm not even sure people know how good he is. Honestly. I can't, Slash was wonderful. I got people who are like fans who go, "Well, Slash not as good as the other guys." Go, "No, you have no idea. Really? How can you say that?"
Yeah.
Everybody has an opinion, right?
Yeah. And they're going to tell it to you whether you want to hear it or not.
That's fine. It's all good. John Fogerty, man.
Yeah.
It's different, but it's that blues based stuff that he just does with integrity, man. He's still at his age now, 74.
His voice.
He's out there whipping it, dude. He's running around, jamming it out. I mean, he kicks me in the ass half the time.
Very cool. Desert Island Discs, man. No, top 3, just for now. Like
got you ready?
Knee-jerk reaction.
I got you.
You wrote it down.
This is. I wrote it down, but here's why. Because I want to get the titles right. Because it's very bad with titles. Okay, the Jeff Beck Group, Rough and Ready.
Yeah, great record.
Favorite album. I never, ever, ever, ever get tired of that one. I found that in Japan years ago. I was with Ross Halfman, photographer, and we were liking a thing, and I reached for it, and I said, "Oh man, no way!" And he was trying to rip it out of my hands, and I'm going, "No, I respect your work. I'm keeping the CD." Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. Come on.
That's one of the most popular responses.
Yeah, well, it is. It's just it's a place and that you can go to, a musical place you can go to, which is completely compelling. And anything by Aretha Franklin, it's not. I can't say I love greatest hits collections because I like to get to the point.
Sure.
Because you got all that great Chuck Rainey bass playing on there, and Wilbur.
Great player, man.
Yeah, and his drummer is leaving my head right now. And Small Faces, anything with Ronnie Lane. I think that guy was a genius, drunken genius, but a genius nonetheless.
Yeah, man. Most important things that you've learned about yourself throughout your life so far?
The most important thing that I've learned about myself is I'm still learning things about myself. I hate to be that ridiculous.
No, man, that is an answer. That is a very valid answer. Yeah, I like that answer very much.
And they're not all bad. Some of them are really good.
Yeah. What's your definition of happiness? I haven't asked this in a while.
You know what, man? Just a day without shit hitting the fan is all I need. It's pretty much it. And it's a sliding scale.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But a day out, I mean, honestly, you know, a sunny day out in the right place, man, with my wife, daughter, or even just on my own, man, that's makes all the difference in the world. Anytime I can breathe and try and stay off of the cell phone for a minute, man, you know, that's a good day. That's happiness.
It's funny because I often think about some of these questions, and I always try to come up with like a lofty question for happiness, and I really don't have one. If I have no fucking stress, I'm basically pretty happy, period.
Well, that's by your nature alone, though, because most people will really search. I mean, I've asked people this, and they will search, man. They will try and figure out where it's at, and that just goes to show they haven't focused. They're not comfortable yet.
There's nothing going. Like you said, the day with the shit the shit hitting the fan. That's like, yeah, that's my definition of happy. I always, you know, because some people have like these eloquent definitions. I'm like, I really don't have one. It's like if I'm hanging out with my wife and having a drink, I'm pretty happy. You know, it's like, you know.
You made that wonderful list of things that I've accomplished. And I was halfway, like right after David Lee Roth, I think it was Elliot Rubinson who passed away, but he was a friend of mine, and he worked for the Hamer Company. He owned the Hamer Company. And he did pretty much what you did at the top of the show. He ran my bio for me. And up until that point, I hadn't thought about it. Truly, I hadn't put it into a big picture. Like I was just living for the next day or the next thing coming up. And it was really weird because that, in a weird way, changed my life as far as being happy. Because here's the thing. I've accomplished more than I thought I could.
Right.
More than I ever thought I would. Okay. And I wasn't being negative about myself. I just realized there's a lot up against being successful in any career. Okay. And especially being a musician. So, you know, I'm paying them, you know, God bless it. I'm paying the mortgage on this thing, you know, whatever, you know, I'm a bass player, you know, come on.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so that's why it doesn't take that much to make me happy. I feel secure in myself because I guess, you know, I've through no fault of my own, I've managed to find the right path.
But you know what, too, man, I think part of when you have a partner that you've been with for as long as you and I have been, and you like have fun and you like, that's a fun thing. That adds for me I mean, I could have a lot of shit go wrong and I'd still be pretty happy because I have that.
Yeah, without a doubt. But we've had to go through some tough times.
Of course, you know, who doesn't? It's not like fog in a mirror, man. Hey, everything's fucking great every day.
Yeah, no, but
it's 25 years. Are you kidding? It's like.
But I'm supporting what you're saying because, you know, my wife has fought with me through all that.
Yeah.
You know, that makes all the difference in the world when you're not carrying the whole thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, huge, it's, you know, so that's that security and happiness. And you're right. You're right, man.
I think that goes a long way. New York City food you miss the most.
Everybody says pizza, and you know what? The last time I went back, I got some pretty shitty slices.
Did you really? You're going to the wrong places. Tell me when you're going back. I'll tell you where to go.
Yeah. Keep track of the race. I got it. See, that's the only reason I take that train to Brooklyn, man. Gotta get JB, man.
We went to we were in the city like, I don't know, about 2 months ago. I think we ate pizza every day. And I'm a guy, I eat healthy like all the time, but when I'm there, man, I'm eating pizza every day. It's really funny. And
I used to like the corner dogs, man. I used to love those. And
the hot dogs?
I don't do that anymore.
That goes right through you.
There's just something like going, I'm going to put that in there and see if I'm going to survive this. It's very New York.
Yeah.
Some guy's dirty hands, from his dirty hands to my mouth. Let's go.
Something about yourself people might be surprised to hear or find a little odd.
Oh, okay. Well, what I actually am, and you're not going to get this, but stay with me on this.
Yeah.
I'm actually a high functioning introvert.
You're a high functioning.
This is a skill set.
Yeah. No, I've read a little bit about this, and I've discussed it with a lot of people that there's something like introverts can come out for something. Go ahead. You can explain yourself better than I.
No, you're exactly right. That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I've trained myself to push out of myself and communicate with people. And again, it's all about the ballast of the things that I've managed to accomplish. That's the only way I can put it together because I wasn't able to do this that much. Standing on a stage is a costume to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Necessary costume in order so I can make music. When I joined the White Lion Band and we started dressing like superheroes, I didn't get that. I was like, where's the jeans? Where's the fucking scraggly hair like Deep Purple? They're like, no, we're doing this. And I go, are we fighting crime or are we playing music?
Right.
You know, what we had to do at the time. So I had to embrace that, and so, but that embracing that gave me a freedom. I could pretend to be that person.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that kind of built on the skill set. I prefer to be on my own in the lab, if you know what I mean. I think a lot of musicians like to do that.
Well, that's conducive to becoming successful as a musician. You got to sit and practice alone for hours
Yes.
and hours. But I'm shocked because you've been like really, since I spoke to you, like you've been like very outgoing. That is surprising. You've been
no, it's taken years. It's taken years for me to do this.
Well, dude, you're doing great. You got me fooled. You're doing great. Let me tell you. Keep that secret. No, I was really surprised to hear that. Most exciting experience that you've had?
There are so many. I mean, truly, I know people say this, but it's profound. Meeting my wife and falling in love with her, absolutely. My daughter's birth, you can't. Well, a lot of people can't imagine what that's like, but if you haven't been there, you can't know what a life-changing experience that is.
Yeah.
And then I digress. Getting the job to play with John Fogerty was mind-blowing to me, and I knew I could do the job, but the fact that he could see that only playing 2 or 3 songs, and and entrust his legacy to me on stage with him was mind-blowing. And I play with great people. I mean, not to take anything away from all these other wonderful musicians, but I came through this door, and when I picked up a guitar, I was 11 years old, and what was on the radio was all his songs, and that's what I played in the Brooklyn Public Library.
Right.
I played Who'll Stop the Rain, and I played Traveling Band, and those were like, I've got a picture. I'll send it to you. I looked just like him, not by design, just my hair grew at that point, and I think we both started growing hair at the same time. But I kind of had this weird look like him, and I wasn't trying to emulate him because I had no idea what the people in Credence looked like at the time.
When he plays, what song does he play that still gives you the goosebumps?
I have to admit, I will admit right here on the sacred internet that I cried like a little baby the first show I did at the Nokia Theater with him, and we played Who'll Stop the Rain.
Oh my God, dude! I just got goosebumps.
Brian, there was tears like rolling down my eyes because it connected me directly to where I started doing this stuff.
That's the song of a generation, though, man. Not just,
Absolutely.
That's an incredible.
Gotten a lot better at the way I can play it without crying now.
Well, good for you. It's a great freaking song. It's an amazing song. James, any non-musical superpowers?
I'm really good at photography and doing the Photoshop follow-up. I started doing actual darkroom stuff for years and years and years. I'm sure you did too. And I'm actually quite good at it, and I'm trying to be great at it. And that's it's kind of like bass playing. I still have that Jocko dream, and I chase it every day. Still, I want to whiz past Danny Leibovitz.
There you go. Best money you ever spent on something? Could be anything.
I'm going to show it to you. People can't see it. We're on
video here for the people on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here, let's get.
Is that a Yamaha guitar up on the left there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
One of their new guitars.
Yeah,
this.
I thought so.
This has brought me more happiness.
Really, it's a Bose Bluetooth speaker.
Yes. Okay. So they don't give it. This is not free. The best money I ever spent on something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So. I bought that a bunch of years ago. So I've always had to have music, right? So having all of my music all the time on my phone, okay, sharing this music backstage with the band. They call the radio station when I put up the music in the dressing room, K. James. Absolutely nothing after 1979 gets played, and that's not a editorial. That's just I really enjoy all the 60s. 50s music. So I make these, I don't even playlist. I just sit there and I hit them. And the joy it brings to everybody in the room when they hear that song. And they just, I can't believe it. This song, like they'll hear the Beach Boys, This Is the Way. And the keyboard player Bob will melt in the corner.
That's cool, man.
And so that's the best money I've spent.
Favorite place you've traveled?
I think I love Australia still. Haven't been there for a couple of years. And I love Japan.
Dude,
I like
Australia,
places.
Japan, and Spain are the top 3 answers.
Really?
Yeah, Australia, Japan, and Spain.
They're, if you come from the States, I think they're livable. They're familiar, but beautifully strange. compared to it.
Toughest decision you've had to make, or most difficult thing you've had to do? And you might have said everybody with your dad. I don't know.
It's like that Star Trek thing, right?
What do you mean?
Yeah, how Captain Kirk actually got his stripes by cheating on the on the big test. It's well, you Trekkies, Paul Craig and write that one in.
Yeah,
there's an episode where they go, "How did you? Nobody beats that test, and you're the only person who did in all Starfleet." He goes, "Well, it cheated." So that's all I got for that. Actually, I don't really think I have a good answer for any of that.
No, all good, man. 2 more questions. Most important lesson you've learned from your business?
From the Monster House business or the music business?
No, the music business.
Oh, okay. To never get that comfortable with it at all.
Yeah.
The big takeaway I have, for you kids out there who are going to play for an iconic musician, it really is their stage and their music. Okay, if you can adopt that and actually believe it and feel it and do everything you can do to help prop that up, you can be successful doing this. I'm sure of that.
Very cool. And last question, man. Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and how much of that has been intentional and how much is just a function of aging?
So I'm trying to learn 28 songs for the Kings of Chaos. They're all songs from the 80s that I've heard 1,000 times. Skid Row songs, Twisted Sister songs, more songs. They're Rat songs, right?
Right.
It's getting harder for me to remember this stuff, to catalog it all. So, having said that, that's the big thing I noticed over the past 10 years. Whereas before, because I've had weeks to do this, it's not,
right.
It's just trying to keep it all in there. But I think that comes in with cell phones and passwords and all the other stuff that's right inside my head. Yeah. Could be that, or I could just be getting older. I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard that answer before. So, man, I can't thank you enough. You're a real sweet guy, and I really appreciate your time. And thanks for being so open and sharing, man. Thank you.
Oh, man, that's what I'm here for, dude.
I want to tell people where to get connected with you. First of all, it's James LoMenzo, bassist, rock star. Let me tell you, if you are looking to get involved with James and have him do some tracks or have him playing any records, email him, and the email address is monsterhouseprod, P-R-O-D, like productions. So I'll say that again, monsterhouseprod, P-R-O-D, @gmail.com. And just let him know what you're thinking about doing and, maybe what other experience you've had or whatever. And then, I'm sure he'll be able to get together with you on the phone and talk about whatever the project is. Also, if you are wanting to hook up with James on social media, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, it's either going to be under James LoMenzo, and it's LoMenzo, or his other ID it might be under is Bass Monster, but it's only 1 S and 2 R's. So I'll spell it BASMONSTE.
I think it's 2 S's. I lied to you.
Is it? Okay. I thought it was, to be honest with you.
Handle.
Okay. Yeah. So it's Bass Monster. BASS. Bass Monster. It's Bass Monster with 2 R's. There you go. And you can find him there. And Rocco, that's your dog?
Yeah, that's right. And I've got a little dog named Lita, too.
Happy birthday, or God bless Rocco, man. I hope that dog lives another night. That is amazing. Of all the things you told me today.
We're looking for quality of life here, so be careful.
Yeah, of all the things you told me, that's the most impressive, that you got a 19-year-old dog, man. I wrote that, like, holy shit. Man, any final words of wisdom?
Oh, no, man, it's been delightful talking with you. I love this. David Lee Roth used to say he loved talking with me because I like to share the tribal knowledge. So I hope I did that a little bit for you today.
You did a great job. Thank you for everything. I appreciate it. Hang on, we'll wrap up. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks so much to James LoMenzo. Again, if you're looking at doing tracks, or you want to have James play on your next album, or you want to do some sessions or book him for some time, or you just want to hang out and hear the hottest, one of the top rock and roll bass players jam, email him at monsterhouseprod, P-R-O-D, monsterhouseprod @gmail.com. And when are you and come see him on tour with Fogerty?
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's see. Radio City later this year, playing on the East Coast. I think we're looking at a gig out here on the West Coast in October. And other than that, we're going overseas in July. So
any plans of coming down here?
The internet is there.
Any plan of coming down to here?
Where's there? Florida?
Tampa. I'm in Tampa.
Oh no, not for this run. No,
okay.
But I'll let you know.
Yeah, man. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice. Go play your guitar or your bass, and have fun. Till next time. Peace and love, everybody. I'm out.